Level Up Latina partners with working women and mamas alike to guide them in achieving fulfilling career and life goals through financial empowerment, professional or leadership coaching, and personal wellness. Find the unique coaching you need to succeed.
You're listening to Vettel, Ceci, and Irene, and we are Level Up Latina.
Welcome to another episode of the Level Up Latina podcast. It's been a while since we've had a guest, but today we have our first guest of 2026. We invited Dr. Jennifer Roelands to chat about a topic that the three of us are very interested about, and it is menopause, perimenopause, all that good stuff. Dr. Jen is a board-certified OB/GYN and integrative medicine physician and the founder of Precision Health MD in Orange County. With over 15 years of experience, she specializes in hormones, perimenopause, metabolic health, and longevity medicine. Known for her direct, no-nonsense approach, Dr. Jen helps women, especially in midlife, understand their bodies, optimize their hormones, and take control of how they age. Outside of medicine, she's a foodie, just like us. You've heard our random episode, you know we're big foodies. And she's also an avid hiker and a mama to 4 amazing kids. So Dr. Jen, welcome. Thank you for being here. We are so happy to have you and excited. Welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here among my fellow gauchos.
Yay!
Bravo.
Go Gauchos. Go. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Dr. Jen is a fellow gaucho just like us. So
We've already bonded over burning couches. Yes. We bonded over IV being nice and sanitary now. Things have changed.
Yes.
Things have definitely changed now in midlife. So let's get right into it. Again, welcome. We're excited to have this conversation. So to start off, our question to you is, what is the biggest misconceptions about menopause that you wish more women understood earlier in life?
The biggest misconception is that people are just told, so menopause is when you've had 1 year without periods. And so often even they go to their doctor, they ask their mom, they ask their friends, and they're like, you're not there. You're not there yet. You haven't had 1 year without a period. So all this you're going through is nothing. And it's very much dismissed by a lot of people, the medical professionals, the friends, the moms, right? The moms who went through it without any hormones who say, suck it up, buttercup. And your friends are like, it wasn't that bad. And so I think the biggest misconception that I hear all the time is that women are like, yeah, I told I'm not there, but like, I think I'm there. Like, I want to burn the house down and walk away. I feel like I'm probably there. And so a lot of times I think people are dismissed by not only professionals that they see, but also women around them. And so we have to change that narrative to be recognizing that perimenopause can occur up to 10 years before menopause. So just math being math, that someone can go through it at 41 if the average age is 51. They can also go through it at 61. And culturally, women experience menopause at different times, actually. So in the Hispanic culture, it's actually 2 years earlier on average. Indian population, it's 5 years earlier. So you imagine that they're 46 average age. So like a 36-year-old might be starting to have symptoms. So we're really not only dismissing across the board, but we're also not even looking at the variations of what happens with different ethnicities, with different cultures. And so I think that's something that I see all the time. Patients are saying to me like, no, they told me I'm not there. I'm like, you're there.
Well, thank you, because just with that, we're already learning a lot. I didn't know the statistics about, women, Latina women, how we tend to start a little earlier. Like, that's news to me. Also, I think a lot of our listeners often get confused with perimenopause, menopause. When does it start? But, you made it very clear that once you've had 1 year without your period, like that's when menopause has started, and you're no longer in this like limbo of like, what is it, menopause, perimenopause? But that's kind of like the sign, right? With 1 year without your menstruation. All right. And so you mentioned that, a lot of doctors or friends have, tend to dismiss it and say, oh, you're fine, that's not it. And it feels like a lot of women are told like, hey, just deal with it. It happens to all of us. You'll get through it. Just deal with it. So what symptoms would you say that we should actually take seriously and advocate for when we feel we're being dismissed?
Yeah, so there's over 80 symptoms associated with perimenopause and menopause. So everybody's journey is very, very different. So someone might come to me and say, I'm not sleeping. I'm waking up at 4 o'clock every morning. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I don't know why. My brain won't shut off. I just can't get to sleep or stay asleep. And that might be their primary symptom. Another person might come to you and say, my hair is falling out, I'm gaining weight. I am told I might be diabetic. They may have different metabolic sort of symptoms that they're dealing with. Might also see someone who's depression. So anxiety and depression goes up by 4 times when you hit perimenopause. So they may come to their doctor and say, God, I cannot stop worrying about everything. I worry about my kid getting on the bus. I worry about, like, this is not me. It's not my personality. I would say across the board, the number one thing I hear is, I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like myself. I feel like I'm like looking at somebody else. Like this is a different person. So it could be very, very different symptoms. In fact, weirdly enough, my most popular YouTube video, I have a YouTube channel, and my most popular video that has over 1.5 million views is 7 unusual symptoms of perimenopause. Because women are like, wait, I thought it was just hot flashes. I'm like, nope, itchy ears, having, all these other unusual symptoms that develop, suddenly having dental problems, like all kinds of things, because there's an estrogen receptor on every single cell in your body. Every single cell. So you can imagine very different symptoms for different systems that someone is affected by. My perimenopause journey started with me waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning every single morning. Like, what is going on? I'm like in there watching Netflix, and my husband's like, what is wrong with you? Go to bed. And you take melatonin and you do all this stuff, and you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning still, no matter what you're doing. But it can be very different than somebody else who maybe has experiencing hot flashes, or maybe vaginal dryness is their number one symptom, or maybe not interested in sex is their symptom. So there's very different drivers depending on what that estrogen is hitting, which system in your body.
Thank you. As you're mentioning all these symptoms, again, over 80 symptoms or so, I think we were all shaking our heads because we've all been experiencing one or several of these, like the sleep. I've become like very, very dependent on my sleep. I go to sleep early, and if I don't get like a good 8-hour sleep, I'm groggy. I don't have the energy. Like it happened to me last night. One of my daughters, I have twin daughters and they're 9, and one of my daughters was just not going to sleep. She couldn't go to sleep. She was like crying. And so I was up a lot, I was up almost till midnight. And then when I finally put her down and came to bed, like it was just like, it was a lot. And so this morning I just feel like groggy, a little bit depressed, anxiety, all that. So I want to take it more serious. And again, like I hear sleep, and the way you eat and things like that. But yeah, thank you for sharing and telling us that, it's these symptoms that we should be looking out for and really, kind of going into this next stage. And I don't know, I guess listening to our bodies.
Can I chime in about sleep? Funny story, doctor. I've never been a good sleeper. So I'm like, oh shit, what's coming? I'm never going to sleep. So I've never, ever been a good sleeper. But as of late, speaking of our kids and colleges and all that good stuff we were talking about off the air, I have one kiddo that she's very high achieving. This is like her doing. So she stays up late to do homework. And I'm like, great. Like, I'm kind of up late too. I'll be her buddy. I'll check in on her. Like, I'm not sleepy at night either. But I've always sort of been that person. And I'm starting to think it's this, that I'm just like, wide awake and happy to be wide awake at 11 o'clock at night and just not. But my husband, the workaround that we've sort of determined is he takes him to school every morning so that if I need to stay in bed, I could, and I know that's a privilege. Not everyone can do that, but just trying to find a way around, these things are happening to us. We really need, I think, a support system or a mechanism to make it work. Because just because I'm up and happy to be up, I still need my sleep. I can't just stay up. And even if I were to lay down, right, I'm just like wide awake. So there's this added benefit that if I'm up and my kid's up and she's doing homework, but I know that the next day, if I needed to, I can get that extra hour, or I can just like naturally wake up, which has made all the difference. Because I remember when I would take the kids to school, that was like hell, right? Like you can't fall asleep. You've got to get up early. It was just this like, whoa, I'm exhausted driving them to school, right? But I know better. I'm supposed to know, go to bed, be tired, but I just wasn't. I just was not tired. And I'm starting to think it's this, right? That our body just doesn't shut down like it used to. And again, I already wasn't a good sleeper, but I'm just happily awake. It's just, I'm up. It's the craziest thing.
Well, the modern conveniences has changed, right? Camping is a perfect example. You go camping and you're freaking tired as soon as the sun goes down. And you can go to bed because you have this sort of natural light dark that's talking to the part in your brain, the clock that says time to go to bed, time to wake up, time to go to bed, time to wake up. But now we live in a world where like the lights are on all the time. you're up on your computer, you're up on Instagram, you're doing stuff till 10 or 11. So your 7 o'clock camping light is now still going till 10. And then you got to reset that clock. So often I actually talk to women who have really bad insomnia issues and say, you need to have first morning light, and you need to be having blue lights off, get away from your computer, stop watching Instagram. You need to actually have a good sleep hygiene routine, because when cortisol disrupts your sleep and you start having all these problems, it then will affect your sex hormones. Cortisol is like the great wrecking ball, just like, who's that wonderful singer that's like singing on the wrecking ball?
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus.
There you go. I was thinking about her with like the wrecking ball, because like it either works well or it's just going to plow down everything that you have going. So you have to be able to have a good sleep routine. So going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. And best sleep, how you know you're doing it right is you're spontaneously waking up at the same time.
Nice.
You don't need the alarm clock. You don't need to hit it 4 times. You don't need to yell for your coffee. Like, you need to be able to...
Coffee instead of coat. Coffee.
Yeah, no, I trained my kids when they were young. I was like, when I open my eyes, you're already up because you're 7. Like, get your mother up a cup of coffee.
Nice.
So they all learned to make little mini lattes when they were little. I was like, because a happy mom is a happy house. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I had 4 kids under 4, so I had a lot of
oh my God,
coffee.
We're twinning on the 4 kids. I had 3, and they were all under 4 for a moment. Now they're a little older. I have now 8, 7, 6, and a 3-year-old. But it's still pushing, with who needs what, and they have different sleeping patterns. So you kind of have to make yourself available for your kids at the same time. But I feel that this kind of just trickles into our next question, was like, how does menopause impact not just our physical health, but our mental health, our confidence and identity? And I think with lack of sleep, a lot of that contributes into it, because if we feel exhausted, if we don't feel like we're sharp, we're on it, I think it takes away from all of that. So how do you think with menopause, like it impacts not just our physical health, but our mental health, confidence, and identity?
I mean, when I started taking care of perimenopause, menopause women, I was sort of shocked by the statistics of how anxiety and depression go up by 4 times. 1 in 6 women have suicidal thoughts going through perimenopause. Mental health is a huge piece that we just don't address at all in medicine. And there are women who, without that estrogen and progesterone as it's starting to decline, are having a hard time. They just feel like, not their self, but also this kind of lack of wanting to do things they normally like to do, or being around people they normally like to be around. So progesterone is this hormone that helps you get to sleep, stay asleep, but also helps calm your brain down and helps you feel like I don't want to burn the house down and walk away, right?
Yeah.
Like when you go through perimenopause, you're like agitated, annoyed, irritable. You look at your husband and you're like, why are you breathing so loud? Why are those kids eating those chips so loud? Like, you just sort of get annoyed by everything and everybody. And then you start disconnecting from people because you're like, I don't want to go to that book club because that girl's annoying. And she talks about this and she chomps at her chips and she always brings, Lay's, and everybody else brings a nice pie or whatever. Like, you start kind of getting to these like things where you're like the people start annoying you, right? And so you disconnect from people, which is even worse for situations like this, because now you're just not getting that connection that when you're going through those changes, you want to feel like somebody else gets it.
True.
And gets you. So those things, progesterone can be very harmful in some ways when you lose it. And then estrogen, for sure. Estrogen helps with your brain fog, memory issues. Why did I go in this room? What's that kid's name I went to high school with? Hey, what college did we go to? Right? Like those sorts of things. And people who have low estrogen feel kind of depressed. Like they feel like, I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to have sex. I don't really want to do, I don't feel like I really want to be me, basically. And so that contributes a lot to relationships at work, relationships at home, relationships with friends that you had. There was a very interesting study that was done in the UK about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and they said a huge percentage of the workforce leaves at menopause, women, because they can't keep up with the tasks. They feel like they just don't connect with their coworkers, and they have a hard time at relationships at home. So the divorce rate also, guess what age group the divorce rate is the highest at? 46 to 55, right?
Exactly where we're at. Exactly where we're at.
you get over the chips, them eating chips thing, and you're like, I can replace him. So like, it's hard. That's a hard time. So, you have to be really not only reach out to people to connect with other women, but they also have to be able to talk to providers, and they also have to be able to talk to their partner. One of the most common comments I get on my YouTube channel is, please make a video on how to talk to my partner. He thinks I'm crazy. He thinks I'm not interested in him. He thinks it's me. And so much of that is about what's happening to you, happening to your body, of things you don't know what to do with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, so much contributes to how people's menopause journey goes, on how they feel like they have the support or lack of support around them. And it can be even that most intimate relationship, like your husband, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting because we can go by just like, we're just exhausted. We can just kind of, wave it off as like, we have kids, we have activities, I have things, we just have stuff going on and work. And you could just brush it off as, we're just tired. I'm just tired. That's what it is. Give me some time. It's not the headache, but it's more like just making an excuse and assuming that we know, right? For me, I feel like sometimes you're talking about the lack of estrogen, the progesterone does this and the lack of estrogen does this. And I'm like, I have the lack of both right now. How do I do this? How do I get tested to make sure? So I feel that we can easily blame it off. Like for me, after hearing you saying this, I feel like I've brushed it off as just exhausted. I'm just really tired. I need to get a good sleeping pattern, and that's what it is. But it's not just sleep. There's so many things that go into it. How can we test for those? Do we just ask our doctor about getting tested for our hormones, like our estrogen, progesterone levels, and what to do with that?
Yeah, so because perimenopause is like a hormonal roller coaster, right? Sometimes your levels are normal, sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. Literally, it's going down like this when you look at someone's levels. So testing, you have to be with somebody who understands when to test and what the levels are, because your estradiol level on day 3 is very different than your estradiol level on day 21 of your cycle. So these things have to be figured out. And unfortunately, we're in this like little pocket of time where providers are very far behind. So this Women's Health Initiative study was published in 2002, which said hormones are bad. It'll cause you cancer, it'll cause you blood clots. So the prescription rate at that time was like in the 80 percentile of women were given HRT, and it went down to 4%. So it's crazy how much that drop then now precipitated 20 years of people not being trained. I was in residency in 2008, and I was told, you'll never need to memorize any of this stuff because you'll never prescribe HRT, and menopause is just about aging. Just tell them to suck it up, basically. So that was my 1 hour menopause lecture, right? And I'm an OBGYN. So if you were trained since 2002, you know nothing about menopause. And if some physician says they do and they learned it in training, I would say, show me your textbook, girl, because I know we didn't. It wasn't until the last 5 years where people were really sort of the momentum, the menopause movement, the conversations, celebrities in you and I's age group who were like, nah, I ain't doing this. Halle Berry, Naomi Watts, they're like, I'm not doing this. Gwyneth Paltrow, for good or bad, whatever she does, some unusual stuff. But they brought the conversation. And to be honest, it's the millennials that are pushing this, not the Gen Xers, not me. It's the millennials. The millennials are like, I ain't putting up with this. I deserve better. So kudos for them pushing this conversation, because they're bringing this out. So it's going to be about advocacy for yourself. You're going to have to find a doctor who knows how to test. You're going to have to find a doctor who knows how to interpret. If you walk in there and they go, yeah, we'll just test it today, and they don't ask you what day of your cycle you're on, what are your cycles like, and don't give you a lab slip that's specific to that luteal phase, then walk away, because you're wasting your money, because it's not going to tell you anything. Your estradiol on day 3 could be 30, and on day 13, when you're about to ovulate, could be 200. So it's a very different level. Do you see what I mean? And the range of estradiol is 20 to 500. So that doesn't tell you anything if you just get a random level. They'll be like, oh, it's fine. Well, it's not fine, because if it was 500 on day 3, that's wrong. So it's very important that you have somebody who's educated. So there's very few of us who spent the time to teach ourselves outside of medicine, who have pushed ourselves to learn menopause care. So you need to make sure that you find that right person before you go and waste your time and effort getting labs, because it may show nothing. True. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We found you. Where's that?
So lucky. So lucky. So for women in their 40s, starting to notice changes, what are the most effective ways to support our bodies through lifestyle, nutrition, or medical options? What are the best ways you would say?
So it's kind of undervalued to actually track symptoms. Women, I mean, we're busy. We're in a sandwich generation. We're taking care of kids and our parents, right? We're in this like sandwich. We got calendars for everybody. We got calendars for the husband, calendars for the kids, calendars for the mom, but we don't have our own little thing that says, when am I experiencing certain symptoms? When are they related to my cycle or not related to my cycle? Maybe I just want to burn the house down every single day. Like it's not even related to right before my period. So trying to track these symptoms and figure out what are the things that I'm sort of dealing with. Notoriously, I think women have sleep problems because they're always taking care of a million other things and we're the last one to go to bed, right? Because if someone forgot their permission slip, we got to run to Walmart and get their poster board, and the kid needs 94 brownies tomorrow morning. Like there's always like something going on that happens, and I mean,
and
I'm
your
sure
husband wants to have sex. There's a whole gamut of things.
10 p.m.
Tomorrow, baby,
exactly.
tomorrow.
There's always that, and I'm sure it's only my children who wait till the morning of to give me all the permission slips for that day that must be filled out within the next 32 minutes. I'm sure it's just my children who do that. And so there's always like something going on. And so sleep is very, very important. We don't think about protein and fiber in our diet because this generation is about tab soda and, sugar-free yogurt, right? We were in that sort of like sugar-free TV dinner, tab yogurt, kind of do a bunch of cardio with Richard Simmons kind of situation. And so we don't think about like protein for building muscle. We don't think about fiber for your gut. And so trying to think about, I really talk to patients about like, what's the low-hanging fruit for you? You can't overhaul your life in 90 days. What is the low-hanging fruit? What is the thing that is not really that hard to add, but you need to add it? So it could be a scoop of fiber a day. It could be going to bed at 10. It could be walking away from Instagram. It could be, getting up for 30 minutes before your kids and stretching. It could be going for a lunch walk. What is the low-hanging fruit that is not that hard for you to add, but you just haven't done it? Those are the things I think. Sometimes it's a brain dump. I sometimes have patients who just get a journal and they just basically want to tell everybody in the world everything at night, and their husband's like, dude, just give me a moment. And so I just am like, brain dump it on a journal. Get it out of your head so that it's gone. So there's a lot of different things that you can do that are lifestyle that I think the most important part is starting with what is the low-hanging fruit for you.
I love that you simplified it. I love that you simplified it like that for us, because it feels like another thing. I just have to add another thing to worry about. But when you keep it simple and make it something that's just the low-hanging fruit, I love that. So thank you for simplifying it. In my brain, I was already like, how do I squeeze in this extra thing? So thank you. I appreciate that.
That's going to be our tip of the day. We like to do a tip of the day on every one of our shows. So the low-hanging fruit for you, everybody's different. What is that one thing you can do different for yourself? Whatever that may be for your sleep and your energy and your lifestyle choices. In fact, our next question was going to be about specifics, Dr. Jen. So what do you think we can recommend, right? I know it's hard to keep up. We don't want to overcomplicate this, but since we're talking about low-hanging fruit, like what is the ideal starter kit for those of us just going on this journey and realizing that we need to be aware? I love that you said earlier too, like tracking our symptoms. We assume everything's just happening to us, right? But it might be a part of this bigger puzzle that we haven't solved, right? So even just that awareness of these symptoms in ourselves and our bodies, but what other things can we be aware of as we venture into this?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people want to just sort of supplement their way into menopause, right? They want to just sort of add a sleep supplement and a B vitamin for energy and a libido supplement and all these things. And sometimes you got to start first with the basics, the foundation, right? So nutrition. I am not a diet person. If you tell me that Jen Roelands, you can't have chocolate, that's the only thing I'm going to want, right? Diets don't work in women. 80%, 90%, you can quote whoever you want over the last eons and eons, they don't work. So you have to figure out what are the things that you can add in what you typically eat to get those requirements, right? How do I get 25 to 35 grams of fiber? How do I get 30 grams of protein every meal? How do I make sure that half of my plate is vegetables that most people don't want to eat? We all want to eat the starchy stuff, right? How do I like the green vegetables that you put oil on to taste good? So like, how do you do that? And for some people that's super easy, and some people it's not. Some people don't even cook. So how do we work with that? So some people are feeding 9 children. Some people have no children. So you can't tell every menopause woman this is what you should eat every single day, because it doesn't work for everybody. And again, if I told you broccoli was the best thing ever for menopause and you hate broccoli, you're still not going to eat it. So you have to find the things that are like for nutrition, the basics of how do I sort of design this and tweak it. And I'm also not a big fan. I have 4 children. I'm not a short order cook. I'm not going to be a short order cook. I never was a short order cook. It's not going to happen. So I sort of adjust things that make sense for me when we're eating meals. So if we're having pasta and sausage, for example, I'm going to take my bowl and I'm going to put my salad underneath. That way I eat less pasta, because otherwise I'm Italian. I want to fill that bad boy up. I want it overflowing. I want sauce going everywhere. Like, I want to make my grandma proud. So I put the lettuce, like spinach underneath. I put my pasta, I put my meat, and sometimes I'm adding like olive oil because it's a healthy fat on top of it. So I'm not making anything different than the kids. I'm not adding work to my plate. I'm just making it slightly tweaked different for me. Does that make sense? So many like ways that I can get that. I personally, no matter what I do, cannot get enough fiber because I cannot remember to do the chia seed thing and all the little Instagram pictures. It's not going to happen. My Instagram picture looks horrible. I'm like, pour it on there. It looks like a hot mess, like me. So I just take 2 fiber gummies at night after dinner. I think they're candy in my brain. I'm like, oh, who's having her candy tonight? And then it's 2 fiber gummies. So it like tricks my brain. I'm like, got my fiber. I think I ate candy even though I didn't. And so there's ways that you can kind of, from a nutrition, tweak what you're doing so you're not having to work harder. Exercise, if you don't do resistance training, you are missing a big piece. 5 to 8% of muscle loss within the first 5 years of menopause, perimenopause. Muscle is the only organ in your body that burns calorie at rest and in motion. Every single cell in your body requires insulin to make a decision. Do I use this food for fuel or do I store it as fat? Muscle does not. This is why we tell diabetics all the time, go for a walk after you eat. Because they just poured a bunch of glucose into their blood system and we want them to burn it off so they don't store it as fat. So muscle, muscle, muscle. If you're losing your best metabolic metabolism organ every year, you have to build it. You cannot lose it. You will gain weight in your midsection. You will complain about it. You'll go, where's the muscle? It's now somewhere soft in that softy spot. You have to build muscle. So resistance training, and it doesn't always have to be lifting weights. I think the narrative also is that women shouldn't lift weights because we're going to get bulky like men. That's BS. I mean, come on, look at these Olympic athletes. Like, they are gorgeous. I mean, I don't think they look like He-Man. So I think that it's important that we build muscle, whatever that is. If it's Pilates, if it's lifting your 2-year-old who's 40 pounds, I don't care what you do. If it's squatting, I mean, whatever you got to do. My mother-in-law actually puts weights in front of her coffee pot. So then when she starts her coffee, she sits there and does arm weights for her 15 minutes because she will not leave until that coffee is in the coffee pot. So she's like, I'm getting it done. So what planks? I sometimes don't have time. So I like lay on my floor. I do planks because planks are freaking hard. And they are using my whole terrible body weight to do this. So it's resistance training. So you have to do those. Sleep has to be part of it. You have to have a good sleep routine. Stress management is one of those ones that nobody wants to do, but everybody should do. So there has to be some sort of stress management tool because rather than light the house on fire, you need to journal or meditate or color. I have one patient who a couple years ago just was like, I can do nothing. I don't like meditation. I can't. I said, well, then just color. Because have you ever met a kindergarten who gets pissed off coloring? They don't. It's like virtually impossible to be upset while coloring. So just color.
I can't imagine. Like anyone who would color, you're naturally going to smile. I can't imagine that.
It's impossible. Like it's stress relieving, right? Even if you're a person who can't even handle outside the lines, like it's okay. You got lines. You could pick the one that has a lot of lines. You could pick the one that has a big fat circle that has no lines. Like whatever you want to do. Like you can't get mad like doing coloring. So that worked for her. She was like, she got an adult coloring book. That was her stress reliever. So you have to sort of have those foundations because you can supplement things that aren't working in your life. Like I mentioned, fiber for me, but you have to have the foundations. You can't take 19 supplements for losing weight and then you're up till 2 o'clock in the morning eating McDonald's. It's not going to work out.
Absolutely. Thank you, doctor, for keeping it simple, giving us our little starter kit. I love that these are all things that are accessible to us. None of this was something we couldn't pronounce or couldn't afford. So that's phenomenal. All these are small things that some might even consider low-hanging fruit. I think the 2 gummies, the fiber gummies that are candy at night, we could all institute something like that and consider it low-hanging fruit. And I know we'd be better off for it. So thank you for those amazing tips. As Latinas, is there anything we should be aware of? I know you mentioned earlier our stats are a little different, and that goes for every culture, but anything specific to us, health risks that we really got to keep an eye out for and things that we shouldn't ignore?
Yeah, so there was a SWAN study that was done quite a bit ago, and it looked at ethnic variations. And what was interesting is that typically symptoms last longer. So the average is 5 to 7 years, but the women of Hispanic origin and that study were actually 9 years of symptom duration. Their symptoms tend to be more vasomotor, so hot, cold issues, sweats, those kind of things, more than, say, mood or dry skin kind of symptoms. So they tend to have more vasomotor. And what's interesting about that is the data really shows vasomotor symptoms correlate with more cardiovascular disease long term. So if you have vasomotor symptoms at an earlier age, then you're more susceptible to, say, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease long term. So that's kind of I think a bigger implication for now and as you age. I think also I do sexual health and sexual medicine. And I think that's where this also conversation about taboo topics, I think sometimes can be often very much dismissed, because there are women who don't necessarily feel comfortable asking questions, but B, don't even really know how to ask the question. And I see that more since I've moved to California than I was like in Missouri, where women sort of have these sort of cultural norms of what they're told to say about sex or pleasure, or do you deserve pleasure? Do you not deserve pleasure? And so I think that becomes an issue, because not only could you be having problems in your 20s, but now think about how bad it's going to get in your 40s, where now you lose hormones, and then it becomes this question of what's normal. So I get asked a lot, is it normal for this? Is this normal for this? And a lot of those conversations, when I have those with patients, I involve the partner. Well, if there's sort of this cultural norm, and I obviously am speaking from someone who is not in this culture, where this is not an open dialogue or conversation, it becomes even more difficult to understand what's normal, right? So commonly I get asked, is it normal to only want to have sex once a week? Well, I don't know. Is it normal for your partners and you? What's normal between both of you? It could be 7 times a day. I don't know, whatever you want. What's normal? What's the partner match here? What was the normal? What do you feel like the normal should be for you? But if that conversation is harder to have, or even maybe not even that partner is willing to come to that conversation, it becomes harder to try to work within that framework. So sometimes for me, it's about that education of well, what do you think is normal? What do you think feels good? What do you want out of this? What do you think this should feel like or not feel like? So those are kind of things I think that sometimes culturally are a little bit, and it's not just the Latina culture. There are other cultures which are more quiet about those kind of issues, and I think that's something that I would love to see broken open about. How do we have this, open dialogue about questions people want to ask but don't? And that's something I actually asked my husband last night. I was like, hey, would you be willing to do a YouTube video with me and just I'll just ask you questions and you can answer however you want. Because trust me, I'm sure it's not going to be flattering to me. And just to break open these questions, because I get asked these questions all the time on comments on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know, let me ask him. He's living with a perimenopausal woman. What's it like?
I love that. Thank you for being willing, because that's the part that's scary to a lot of people, and then we don't really get an honest approach from folks, because we're not really hearing what they're thinking really, or from their partner. I love that. I absolutely love that you're willing to just put it out there, even if it's not so favorable to you, because we want to hear from both sides. And we've tried to do a little bit of that here and put ourselves out on the chopping block and have our partners give their feedback, and we cringe a little, but it's so helpful, right? It's so helpful, and we've grown from it too. This is phenomenal. I love that you brought up so many different layers, because I think that it'll really have moments of aha for our listeners, and they'll think, that's me, or I see myself in that, or I identify. apply in this. And I just want to empower our listeners to go further in those moments and what you heard today when you took from it, because it's so important to empower yourselves and to advocate for yourselves. And whether it's your relationship with your partner, whether that's just small changes in your day to day, or whether it's just feeling understood, I hope that a lot of you felt seen listening to this today. Before we wrap the episode, we always have a signature question that can go anywhere. It doesn't have to be about this topic, but we like to ask all of our guests, and we've asked the many, many guests through the many, many years, what's the one piece of wisdom or advice that you would give yourself, doctor, if you could talk to your 25-year-old self? What would you say to that person?
Oh my gosh. I just had this conversation with myself probably about a week ago because, as I was younger, like things would just kind of like, I was born in a household where women are not to get an education. Like my mother, father did not go to college. It was expected that I would not go to college, that I was to go have babies. So even my own parents were like, yeah, I mean, if you want to go to college, like, good luck. I hope it works out. Like, you can pay for yourself. And I'm still paying loans 17 years later. Like, it's very much, my grandmother told me when I was 18 years old, I was a disappointment because I wasn't married and I must not cook good enough because I can't wrangle a man, basically. And then she called me a lesbian right after that, which was kind of fun too.
Wow, sounds like the Latina experience.
Girl, we're with you. We're with you on that.
I was like,
you have spoken to all of us.
Yeah. I mean, 20, 30 years later, I'm like, God, thank God I didn't pick somebody at 18 because it'd be not good. And so many times in my life, I've sort of just pushed, hard, go. Jen, you are going to determine everything. You are going to be the one that does it. You have to make it happen. No matter what you do, you're on a boat by yourself, and that's that. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that was a terrible way to look at things. That failure is how you learn. Failure is how you grow. Connecting with someone, even my husband, who we've been married 20 years, I love him. He'll tell you for the first 10, 15 years, I was like, I don't trust you. I'm gonna do this all myself. I'm on an island by myself. Like, good luck, dude. Like, if you're gone, you're gone. And so I've learned over the last probably 8 years, as I've failed at things and tried and failed at things. I left medicine. I left traditional medicine with all my colleagues calling me, I'm freaking crazy. What's wrong with you? Why would you do holistic medicine? There's no reason to do this. Why are you taking care of menopause women? Let them suck it up. Like, I mean, so many things that I've been constantly battered by and have tried to take me down. I've learned that, like, connection with people and connection with my husband, connection with other people, I should have done that before. I should have realized the value that no woman can be alone and stand alone, and that's something, the more and more you sort of get older, I think the more you realize, like, when someone's at their deathbed, they don't go, God, I really wish I would have gone to IKEA again. I really wish, man, I just didn't go to Disney enough. Like, they're always like, I wish I had more time with my friends. I wish I would have gone on this trip to Bali I've always wanted to. It's always about connection. And I think I always felt like, because I was sort of alone younger, that I had to do it all and it had to be all me. And I'm trying to teach my children now, like, no. Your best relationships are your siblings. They're their longest relationships you're going to ever have. Foster this. Enjoy the moments you have now. Connect with people. You may get burned here and there, but that's okay. Ultimately, the human connection is the most important. And I think that's something I wish I would have known at 25 instead of being the solo the solo girl and did a better job as I was younger.
It's beautiful though, doctor, because there's so many lessons in that, and who knows, right? Because there was that version of you, what has transpired in your life. Maybe you would never have married your partner if there wasn't that version of you. So we don't know, right? And now you're in this version of you that looks back and says, good, I don't have to be solo on an island. That really resonated with me. I think that's beautiful. I've also been married 20 years. So maybe we also at year 15 decide, let's just stop fighting the good fight and admit that we really want to be with each other, even if we drive each other crazy, right? This was awesome. I had a wonderful time asking you these questions. I'm going to let Ceci close us out.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you, Dr. Jen, for being here, for indulging us, for having this conversation so openly, and this is something I think that it's like you said, it's more of a dialogue that women are having, and I'm all about it. When I learned about you, I was like, oh my God, I want to have her on the podcast. Let's make it happen, because this is it's affecting us right now and we're going through it. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and you gave us so many good nuggets. But tell us, how can our listeners learn more about your practice? How can they find you? I know you mentioned your YouTube channel, but tell us a little bit about how they can find you on social media and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at drjen.md. Same thing for YouTube. And then my company is precisionhealthmdoc.com is the website, but it's Precision Health, and we're in Fullerton, California. So, and I'm writing a book that's coming out in September on perimenopause. So that will be out, and, then you can read about then. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Congratulations. We look forward to seeing it and reading it and learning more. But thank you again. Thank you. And to our listeners, you know how to find Dr. Jen now on social media in her practice. If you want to keep the conversation going, you know how to find our handles, our Level Up Latina on Instagram and Facebook. Or if you want to shoot us an email, admin@leveluplatina.com. If you want to learn more a little bit about monthly Guilt-Free Squad, our website is always leveluplatina.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, Dr. Jen. We really appreciate you.
Gracias.
Thank you so
You were
much.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending your morning with us. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.